Welcome to this meeting of the Council. I'm Councillor Simon Dowling, Vice Chair of Babergh District Council, and I'll be chairing this meeting today. Can I first of all remind you of the usual domestic arrangements? Toilets are situated outside the meeting room opposite the stairs. Cold water is also available in the breakout area outside the meeting room. If the fire alarm should sound, please leave the meeting room by following the fire exit signs and meet on the Ipswich Town Football Club training pitch. Do not re-enter the building until you're told it is safe to do so. Please switch off all mobile phones or turn them to silent. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be filmed, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the Council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting, you are also consenting to being filmed by the Council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. The Council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. We'll now move to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies from Councillor Lee Parker, Councillor Elizabeth Melvisi, Councillor Alison Owen, Councillor Brian Riley and Councillor Jessica Carter.
Thank you. Councillor Maybe would like to make a statement about Councillor Riley's absence.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, very sadly, Councillor Riley's wife, Alice, has died. I don't know how many of you knew her, but I'm sure you will join me in sending our condolences to him. We were trying to work out how long they'd been married. It was well over 50 years. It could have been 60. So it's been a very long unhappy union. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybe. Would you convey our sincere sympathies and condolences to Councillor Riley when you see him next?
Yes, I will. Thank
you. Item 2, a declaration of interests by councillors. Are there any declarations of interest for today's business, please? I see none. Thank you. Item 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of November 23 for accuracy only. Are there any issues with accuracy? Councillor Holt.
Yeah, page 9, 64.3, there's a comment by myself. It doesn't quite read right from the end of line 2. It reads that to South Cambridgeshire District Council and requested all this is to happen. That doesn't obviously make sense. I think the gist of my point was that should this happen in the future, all members are consulted and agree correspondence. So whether we can sort of amend that, perhaps look back at the minutes, because what's written there isn't right. If we could look back and make an amendment to that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other issues with accuracy? Okay, can I have a proposer for the minutes, please? Councillor Osborne, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Register, thank you very much. So we'll take this vote by a show of hands. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item 4, announcements from the Chair and the Leader. The Chair would like you to note paper BC 2330, which is a list of engagements carried out by the Chair. And I'd like to invite Councillor Ward, Acting Leader of the Council, to make his announcements. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to report Babergh has provided Living Well in Winter grants to 17 projects in the district. The grant was introduced last year to support VCFSE organisations in providing new accessible spaces and activities, or to expand upon existing projects and to provide warm spaces and help tackle social isolation. I'd like to thank all of the people who make projects like these happen in our communities. We hope that this extra funding is helping support the well-being of residents during the colder months and helping people to forge new connections within their communities. It was good to see the newly refurbished public toilets at Jail Lane in Sudbury now open. Upgrading the toilets has been something both we and Sudbury Town Council have been wanting to do for several years. So it's great to see these plans come to life. We committed over £50,000 to the project, and the building now has new sinks, toilets, flooring, tiles, and the outside has also been updated. Along with our plans for a cafe and toilets at Bellevue Park, we remain committed to improving facilities in Sudbury Town Centre for residents and visitors. At the last meeting of Suffolk public sector leaders, a further £2 million has been pledged to tackle the climate emergency and help the county achieve its net zero target. The money will be used on a variety of projects to bring in low carbon transport, sustainable homes and cleaner power for the county. It will also be used to support communities and businesses with environmental initiatives. And finally, I was delighted to have been invited on last Saturday, along with more members, Councillors Maybury and Clover, to Cockfield's Village of the Year event to celebrate their being named SALT's Small Village of the Year. There was a huge range of village organisations and clubs with stalls showcasing what they do. Cockfield has taken quite a lot of new housing, but the well-run and proactive parish council has ensured that it has maximised the availability of sill to improve facilities for the village. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Are there any points of clarification on those announcements? No, thank you. So, item 5, to receive notification of petitions in accordance with council procedure rules.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 6, questions by the public in accordance with council procedure rules.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 7, questions by councillors in accordance with council procedure rules. Now we have questions on the tabled papers which are available to you. In Councillor Riley's absence, his table question will be deferred to February's council meeting. So I will ask Councillor Holt to ask his question, please.
Thank you, Chair. This question was originally directed to the Babergh leaders, which is Councillor Busby, Councillor Sort and Councillor Ward, but I think in the papers it's just to Councillor Ward. Re the proposed full council debate on governance structure review, it was agreed at full council in March 22 to be presented to the new council after the May 2023 elections. I raised this at full council on the 18th of July in 2023, and as yet no one has come back to members. I note in the minutes from the 18th of July meeting that the Chief Exec responded that a further review of the governance structure was agreed upon full council in the March 22 debate, and that officers would seek to bring that debate before the Constitution Working Group as soon as possible. Nothing has been brought forward to them. 6 months on, and there has been no discussion at all with the Constitution Working Group. My question is, what is happening?
Thank you. Councillor Ward, would you like to respond, please?
I would, Chairman. Yeah. What is happening? To be honest, Councillor Holt, not a lot at the moment. The March 2022 council meeting did agree that a further review of governance arrangements would be undertaken after the elections in 2023, but it didn't specify a time frame. I would remind all members that we do operate a cabinet model that is more open and inclusive than it could be. Both open and confidential items are available to all members who can attend and ask questions. As leader in the past, and latterly as acting leader, I have exercised discretion on more than one occasion to allow non-cabinet members to make statements, the most recent being Councillor Owen's statement at the last meeting. We've also tried to make improvements to council meetings, with admittedly limited success, but we will continue to do this. The administration has been very preoccupied with finalising its priorities for the next 3 to 4 years, pursuing several initiatives such as progressing a local listed building consent order, signing up to the considerate constructors scheme, approving an implementation plan for EV infrastructure, and tackling the issues raised by the social housing regulator, whilst also seeing Part 1 of the JLP through to approval, commencement of Part 2 and supplementary planning documents, and latterly, of course, setting the budget for 2024 to 2025. Fiddling with governance structures while needing to address the pressing budget problems could be construed as navel-gazing. However, once we have a permanent monitoring officer in place, then we can look forward to bringing this work forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Holt, would you like to ask a supplementary?
I would. Sorry, Councillor Ward, that isn't good enough. This was a commitment made by the previous administration, of which 18 members were re-elected, and some sit in this chamber today. And it should be honoured. It is undemocratic for it not to have been put before this council for debate, which is now 8 months since it was re-elected. The monitoring officer back in 2022 confirmed that it was a statutory requirement that any change to governance model would come into effect at the annual council meeting. Can't happen before. Meaning that it is now, I believe, very unlikely to come before all members for a decision to be implemented before May 2024. The position we find ourselves in today is a repeat of the 2022 scenario, where we find the cabinet model not delivering democratic process to members of this chamber and our residents. And I quote, as Councillor Parker, who isn't here today, previously said back in 2022, a cabinet system worked well with a political majority, but a committee system was a better system overall. I, like Councillor Parker, have been in office for 9 years and have experienced both systems. And I have to agree with him. We should not forget it was proposed during the parking charges debate of 2022. This is what drove members to have the debate. So I asked the question to Councillors Busby, Ward and Saw to commit to that debate as previously agreed back in 2022 by the end of March this year, 2024, and let this council decide its own future and not the select few.
Thank you. Councillor Ward, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would. You said the cabinet model worked when there's a political majority, obviously when there was a Conservative political majority. So I think we would all want to ask, why is the Conservative group so eager to pursue this? It seems they've suddenly changed their mind on what they would like the governance model to be. But
don't interrupt, please.
Members of the public should, and members here and also the public, should remember that the Leader cabinet model was agreed by a Conservative majority, a majority council in 2016, and implemented by that same council in 2017. So this is a U-turn. Not for the first time the Conservative group has pursued a U-turn. So one has to ask, is there no policy, no principle that they're willing to sacrifice on the altar of expediency and their desires of the moment? Many years ago, there was a Conservative leader who famously didn't like U-turns. Times seem to have changed a lot.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Councillor Holt.
I did not make this a political issue, and if Councillor Ward had have listened to what I said Councillor Parker was quoted as saying that the cabinet system didn't work as a political majority. He too was a Conservative at the time, and he too voted it in. But there are many members sitting here today that aren't Conservative members who strongly opposed the cabinet model.
Councillor Holt, point of order. What is the point of order, please?
The point of order is that Councillor Ward made an incorrect statement that it was a Conservative issue. It is not political. He's making it political because it suits him. But the members in this chamber who are sitting opposite, there are more there today who voted to have that debate than there are sitting here.
Okay,
So
point
it's
made.
not
Thank you
political.
very much. And committees. 8A, which is paper BC 2331, the half-year report on Treasury management, 23 to 24. I'd like to invite Councillor Hurren, Joint Chair of the Audit Committee, to introduce paper BC 2331 and to move recommendations in the report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure to do that. I understand that Karen Watling and Alistair Greer will be joining us remotely, so it's a bit unusual, but I just thought I'd make that clear at the start. But I will introduce the paper and move it to the vote. This is a statutory report required by the SIPA Code of Practice on Treasury Management. It provides members with a comprehensive update on Treasury Management activity for the period April to September 23. In particular, it gives an update on compliance with the Joint Treasury Management Strategy, which was approved by councils in February 23. This half-yearly report was presented to Joint Audit and Standards Committee 27th of November 23. That committee agreed that it be recommended to Babergh Council and that the following be noted. Babergh District Council's Treasury Managed activity for the first 6 months was in accordance with the approved Treasury Management Strategy, and also the Council has complied with all the Treasury Management indicators for this period. Now, the report contains Appendix A, which provides the economic background and a forecast of interest rate movements. Appendix B states that Babergh's borrowing has decreased by approximately 9 million during this period to £20 million at the period end. This is mostly due to the repayment of some short-term borrowing, Chairman. There was a marginal decrease in the level of long-term borrowings, but however, this end balance is still £95.5 million. Appendix C deals with the Council's investment activity. We continue to hold 11 million in externally managed pooled funds and have invested other surplus funds with market money funds, short-term deposits and call accounts. Investment balances range from 12.5 million to 23.5 million during this period and has decreased by approximately 3 million at this period end. Section 3 gives an update regarding the Council's non-Treasury holdings. There are no changes to this position that need to be flagged up to members. Appendix D, probably the most appropriate one to go with this paper, shows the indicators that the Council used to measure and manage its exposure to Treasury management risks. The Council was fully compliant with all these indicators during this period and intend to remain so. Now, I'm chairman of this committee, or joint chair, and as such I make it my ambition to bring out the very best of all of my members and to steer them in a correct period, in a correct direction. But for the nuts and bolts things, I do rely on the officers if somebody wants to go in depth to any of this, what's in this paper. I'm told that Karen Watling is our temporary 151 officer for a certain period, and Alistair Greer, who is new to the council and I haven't met yet, has joined the team as well. So, you know, I wish them both luck as new members of the team and look forward to working with them. So I'd soon move this paper, and between us we will handle any questions that members like to ask, either tonight if we can between us, or it can be done remotely after the meeting if that is easier and appropriate. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hurren. Could I have a seconder for the report, please? You, Councillor Register. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to questions. Councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject under discussion and must be a question. Questions, please. Councillor Maybury.
Thank you, Chairman. As a point of clarification, really, could you remind me, or could our Chief Executive remind me, or put me in the picture of when we actually decided that we would have remote visitations from officers? Because I thought they had to be within the chamber. If not, does that mean I can have the night off and sit at home as well?
Thank you, Councillor Maybury. No, unfortunately it doesn't. So legally you are all obliged to be in the chamber. Officers are not obliged to be in the chamber. Unfortunately, Karen is unable to be here from a medical perspective, and that's why we've taken the practical decision that it works for her, obviously, to be able to dial in to support the council, but not to be able to physically get here because she's unable to do so today. It is something we're able to do. It's something that some councillors have encouraged us to do more, and we are, I suppose, trialling it to see how effective it is. We've done it in some committees, not others, but it's certainly not something that I fully expect us to do on a regular basis.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes,
Councillor Maybury?
yes. I think you just said, because I can't rewind it, I think our Chief Executive just said that councillors have been encouraging this remote officer link. Well, you certainly didn't ask me. So who has made that decision? Is it the Cabinet again? Thank you.
So no, it's not, and certainly I've not consulted all councillors on it. It's a very pragmatic thing. Your choice tonight was simply either not to have the officer at all, which clearly is not preferable, or have a dial-in, which makes a lot more sense in this particular circumstance. As I said also, it's not something we're intending to do on a regular basis, but it is something that on occasions councillors have suggested that it would seem to be a very pragmatic approach if the officers are unable to attend.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the Treasury Management Report? Councillor McLaren.
To be coming on, so I'll shout. It's now. Oh, it is now. On page 40 in Appendix C, there's a comment about the funding circle performance, which said bad debts to be recovered. And I was just wondering, I can't find anything that tells me what the level of the debt is and if there's any time limit on us to recover those debts. Thank you.
Yes, if I could refer this one to Karen Watland, I'd be very grateful, Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I'm afraid I don't know the detail at this stage, unless Alistair, you know, we'll have to revert back to you in writing on this issue.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I don't know the detail either. So I beg to refer back to committee on this in writing.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll come back with an answer.
Yeah, thank you,
Is that
Chair.
okay? Okay, Councillor Maybury.
Yes. Oh, everybody's light is on, so I hope everyone can hear me. So some may wish to switch them off. Yes, this actually refers to Councillor McLaren's question as well. We've had this before, that there's been a deficit with funding, or with a funding circle, or perhaps we should say bad debts. I don't like that wording, but there we go. So obviously the officers who are currently online have not been briefed on this. So could someone also explain why the officers have not been briefed on this historical bad debt? Thank you.
Councillor Harron. Beg pardon?
I have a point of information on this, Chair, if I may.
Okay, let's have that then.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, page 40 does refer to a very tiny amount of debt. If you look at the pie chart up 6 pages further, 34, we have 0% investment in the funding circle. When you drill down on table 2.15 on table 40, it does show a tiny amount, 0.039 million. So that's what, 3,900? We're not talking about vast sums here. So I'm just trying to put this into perspective. And I can't say I'm terribly surprised that officers, with all respect to Karen, who are subbing for our Section 151 officer, would be unaware of this, because it is such a tiny part of our investment. That's the only point I would make, and I just offer that as information from experience.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howard, did you want to respond to the question?
Yes, I was just going to say, Chair, that Melissa Evans would have had all this at her fingertips, wouldn't she? But as we've had to bring somebody in as a Section 151 officer at quite short notice, then I think it's best to wait till everybody gets the head round it. It is a small amount, and I am aware of that, but people are entitled to ask, even if it's 50 quid, aren't they? But I will we have our next audit and standards meeting on Monday, when I will get to know the officers a bit better, and I can ask that they give a full briefing of the debt, which I think is fair. But it's obviously a period when we're having to think on our feet a little bit, but not for long. And we hope that Melissa comes back post haste very quickly, I would think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Another question, Councillor Maybury.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I've lots of questions tonight. This is first of all a comment, but then it is a question. I was always taught, when learning about money, and whether it was on my parents' knee or somewhere else, that if you looked after the pennies, the pounds looked after themselves. So my question to Councillor McCraw is, since he made a comment that it's such a small amount, when does he think that a small amount doesn't matter when it is dealing with council funding, which is ultimately taxpayers' money? So what figure would he like to put on it? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McCraw.
I'm not entirely sure I should be answering this question. It's not my responsibility. I was offering this merely as information from experience. However, from that experience, I would suggest that everything matters in the round. But the question from Councillor Maybury was directed towards the officer's or lack of knowledge on a particularly small part of our portfolio. And my point was just to point out that it was quite understandable that their focus was not on this relatively small amount. All amounts are significant, obviously. However, focusing on the small, tiny amounts when we should be focusing on the bigger picture seems to me counterproductive, and particularly when we're looking at a whole Treasury management position. And I think that's what's been presented today. So I'll have no fears or worries concerning this, because I've examined the funding circle through its history over many years, and I can recall questions being raised when the situation we were more exposed. I happen to believe, for good reasons, that our exposure to the funding circle was reduced for very good reasons, particularly in that it was not providing an adequate response or an adequate return within our Treasury management. And that's the job.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's clear. Any more questions on the report? Councillor Holt.
Thank you. Page 41, 3.5 trading companies, the table 7. Could the officers or Councillor Horan please give an understanding to me about the balance? I believe it was 9.16 million received, which I assume is the payments from Suffolk, and interest payable 2.1. I just want to ensure that Suffolk are paying their full interest payments to the council, and the council aren't subsidising Suffolk. I just want clarification that what they're owed, they're paying, and we're not getting a false income because that debt is outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Horan.
Chairman, yes, thank you. I will refer that again to Karen Watling, but I did wonder if Councillor Busby might be more appropriate, or even John Ward. Yeah, let's try Karen first, because she needs to learn this anyway, and then the two councillors who are more involved than me, I think, would be a good project, Chairman.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah, my understanding of the situation is the loan repayments are being made by Suffolk, but the interest at this current time is being accrued to the account, so it's amounts owing, with the expectation at this point in time that those amounts will be received by the council.
Thank you. Councillor Ward, would you like to add anything?
Yes, for 2-3 years there are deferred payments, a small amount of deferred payments to the councils, so that Suffolk can retain that for capital investment in the portfolio. But and that's why we're accruing those, and they will be repaid in full in the fullness of time.
Okay, Councillor Holt.
In such budgetary times where money is very scarce, how much are we talking about? How much extra pressure has that put upon this council? And for you to bring a budget to us, a balanced budget.
Councillor Ward.
I will get that precise figure for you. I don't have it at hand this evening, but I will get it for you in the next day or so.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah. Yes, I can see, thank you. Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I think my question is somewhere to do in page 41, but it's more that I want to know the costing. I hear what Councillor McGaw just said about large amounts of money, and what I want to know is that the Babergh Holden Limited Company, Babergh, that is responsible, I gather, for Corks Lane, and if it is, where can I find the exact figures of this costing? Because as we all know, this is a very, very large amount of money. I can't see it here, but I think it comes under Babergh, so it should be shown somewhere. Perhaps I'm totally out of order, Mr. Chairman, and it doesn't refer in there. I don't know, Councillor Harron, but Babergh, that is part of it. I mean, we could quote hundreds of thousands of pounds, but I don't know what the figure is.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harron?
Yes, I think, Chair, members have to be aware this is an order of things that has happened. I think Councillor Beer are more concerned with what's actually going on, but I would think Councillor Busby would have a good hold on those figures of what's happening there. If I could refer to him, or Councillor Ward, who a bit more up with things than myself.
Councillor Busby?
Thanks, yes. No, I don't, is the answer. I don't think Babergh has ever appeared in the Babergh Treasury Management Report. It comes up as under a different heading altogether, a different section, and figures will be reported from Babergh Holdings as the holding company. As you know, Babergh is a joint venture between us and Norse. And so, yeah, the figures aren't included in here, I don't believe, unless the accounting experts can tell me otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Yes, follow up?
Thank you for that, Councillor Busby. That's quite helpful. But could I have, or could we have these figures in time for the budget meeting? Because I think it's important. We are talking of large figures, and I think we need to know if we're going to cut this or try and pay for that we need to know what this is costing us, because that is a drain on our finances. You and I both know that. Thank you.
Councillor Beer, I would say that's not relevant to the report in hand, which is a Treasury Management report for the last 6 months. So I don't think we need to pursue that any further. Okay. Are there any other questions about the Treasury Management
report? Will I get the answer
report?
of the amount? I need to know. I don't know what it's costing us. But and as an elected member of this council, I think I should be able to.
We've heard that Babergh is not included in the Treasury Management report.
Okay.
So your question isn't relevant to this item, which is about the Treasury Management report. It's a different question.
Okay. Could you, in your good office, ask that this question be answered to me in due course?
I'm sure it will be. Shall we move on?
Chair, can I just respond quickly? The amount will be in the capital programme, so that's reported each quarter to Cabinet, and it will also be showing in the budget that's going to full council in February in the capital programme, and it will show the amount that's expended on the Babergh Limited.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is it a question, Councillor Holt? Good. Please go ahead.
Sort of. I do find it amazing that Councillor Ward can't answer the question with a figure. He is meant to be in control of our budgetary figures. He is meant to be in control of the money, and he doesn't know how much we owe or how much we have outstanding, as does Councillor Busby, who equally, I believe, is a board member and should have those answers. So I'm a little bit surprised and concerned that the man who's going to be presenting our budget doesn't have a clue.
Councillor Ward, would you like to respond to that?
What can I just say, Chair? Sorry.
Councillor Busby.
We understand that the headquarters project is of a keen interest, and we understand that the opposition are interested in the figures, and quite rightly too. And we will produce a report which analyses the whole project from start to finish, including the finances, as soon as we've got the information to hand. We're still in the process of gathering information. As you can imagine, it's a volatile circumstance at the moment. Interest rates, house prices, materials, getting things completed, etc. So if we produced a report at the moment, it would be wrong because we know it will change. But we guarantee that we will do that for you. As far as the budget's concerned, the figure that you need to look at is the increase in interest charges because of the extra loan that we need to take out to complete the project. And that is in the budget report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Okay, we can now move to debate. Councillors will be allowed to speak once only for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Would anyone like to open the debate, please? Yeah, good. Councillor Hurren, do you wish to add anything at the end? You weren't very quick off the mark, Councillor Maybury, unusually. So, Councillor Maybury.
Chairman, I am so pleased that you understand that I'm usually quick off the mark and on my feet. It's probably because I'm trying to remove my mask because I've got a bit of a cough and I'm trying not to give it to everyone else. But it is not COVID. You're all safe. We'll leave that to everyone else. I'm just going to comment and say that I'm quite surprised that nobody from the other side of the pond here wants to debate finance or the Treasury report. Is it because we don't understand it, and I'm using the royal we? Is it because we have no interest in it, royal we? Or is it because we just want to get on and go home? So that is the question for the debate. We have managed to ask a few questions from our side of the pond, so I leave it to everyone else. Oh, look, hands are coming up. So hopefully there is some debate coming. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McCraw, then Councillor Register.
Since I take that as a rhetorical question, and a former member of Audit and Standards amongst other committees, can I give a rhetorical no? I do take an interest, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Register.
As a current member of Joint Audit and Standards, I fully understand this Treasury report and I do not need to ask questions at this meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else like to contribute? Thank you. Councillor Hurren, anything you'd like to say at the end?
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Register hit the nail right on the head. This is all fairly historic, boring stuff. It's the facts of what we've done. It's all in the tin, if you know what I mean. Anyone who reads the report thoroughly will see what we've done. They will see it's perfectly in order. And I just remind to thank Councillor Busby, McCaw and Ward for helping me out when some people strayed off the paper, Chairman. And it's my pleasure to move it and seek a seconder.
Thank you. No, we have a proposal and seconder already, thank goodness. Thank you. I'll now ask the Assistant Manager Governance to conduct the electronic vote on noting the Treasury Management Report.
Thank you, Chair. That vote is now in progress, and members are voting on recommendations 3.1 and 3.2. Councillor Maybury, may I take your vote, please?
Yes, I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you. Councillor Beer, may I take your vote, please?
Yes, I'm against it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. That is 23 votes for, 3 against, and 1 abstention.
Thank you. So that motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item 9. This is paper BC 2332, our plan for Babergh. And I'd like to invite Councillor Ward to introduce the paper and to move the recommendation in the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. On behalf of Councillors Saw and Busby, I'm pleased to introduce report BC 2332, the Administration's Plan for Babergh. Our plan for Babergh sets out our vision, approach and priorities to help create a resilient, more sustainable future with and for all of our residents and communities. It will always be the Council's role to provide high quality services, but we are ambitious and want to see our towns and communities really thrive. We do, however, also recognise that we need to be financially sound in the challenging circumstances that all local authorities are working under. As part of the process, in addition to the internal workshops and other meetings that we have undertaken, we agreed that we would engage with our communities, businesses, partners and other stakeholders. We made a particular effort to engage with groups that represent seldom heard voices in our communities to ensure that we heard from everyone. Our message to the public was, this is what we think, what do you think? We wanted people to tell us what they like, what they don't like, what they think we've missed and what matters most to their community. We wanted to capture wide-ranging views from a diverse group of people. In short, we wanted everyone to help shape the future of their own communities. Serious long-term change takes time, discussion and thought. It also requires us to listen and work with our communities. This report describes how we went about that engagement, the feedback we received and how we have taken on board that feedback. Following the engagement, our plan for Babergh was agreed by Cabinet last month and now it is presented to full Council to agree its adoption. Our plan can be found in Appendix A and it gives our vision, direction and accountability for what we will deliver for our communities. And this is built on three themes: a revitalised and improved environment, a thriving economy and resilient communities. I would like to propose a recommendation in section 3 that Council accepts the Cabinet's recommendation to adopt our plan for Babergh. And obviously here to answer questions, but I think I've spoken quite a lot this evening, so I'll be quite happy if Councillors Saw and Busby answered a lot of the questions as well.
Delighted.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Can I have a seconder for this paper, please? Councillor Saw, thank you very much. Right, we'll move to questions. Again, councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject and be a question. Is that Councillor Rees, please?
Okay, right. On page 50, paragraph 4.4, it says there were some low response rates from some areas, including businesses and the voluntary community, social and faith sector. But that an ongoing commitment is in place to continue the conversation with these groups moving forward. Does that mean that these groups will be listened to when they object to the parking charges? Thank you.
I'd like to take that one.
I think it's very presumptuous that they will object to the parking charges. As we haven't had the results from all the businesses yet, we can't possibly know what their response will be. And hopefully we are looking a bit beyond a narrow topic such as car parking charges to help businesses thrive in the future. There are many other issues that we can do.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I was rather pleased to hear Councillor Ward say that he wanted to engage with the public and he's going to listen to the public. You know very well, as much as I do, that we have managed to get nearly 5,000 people signing the petition. Will you listen to that against the compartment? You're shaking your head, so in other words, you're saying no already. So you're not going to listen to them then. It answers my whole question, because I don't believe that you're being honest with us all.
Okay. Councillor Beer, it needs to be a question, please, and it needs to be relevant to the subject, which is our plan for Babergh.
He just shook his head when I said you'd listen. He shook his head and said no, in other words.
I don't think it's relevant to the topic. Thank you.
I want to know whether you're going to really listen to those people that have taken the time to sign petitions, that those shopkeepers who feel they're going to be hard done by, and all the other people that you're not listening to at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Busby?
Yeah, the petition will come forward to Council. And there will be a full and frank debate, I should think, on that evening. I'm sure we could probably sell tickets for it. But that is the opportunity that, for you to put forward your views, for us to listen to what the public has said. I don't know what the question was when the 5,000 people supposedly were asked, whether it included any alternatives or whether it's just a case of, would you like to keep free car parking? In which case, can I put my name down for that as well? Because everybody would like to have free car parking, but not at all costs.
Thank you. Councillor Clover.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms of
the first 30 minutes before I made that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holt.
Yeah, back to the paper. We've done this before, and looking at the numbers, I mean, 540 engagements, total number of respondents 500. It's not good, is it? We just can't find a way, it seems, to engage with our public, unless it's parking, but I won't go on there. But it's not good that we are presenting this with such engagement. It's abysmal. I don't know the answer to it, by the way, because we have done it before and we've got equally the same sort of response. It is very, very difficult. We get criticised, everyone gets criticised as a district council for not doing this, not doing that. When we try to engage, people just don't want to know, unless they've got something to complain about. So it's very disappointing. What I would say is the headlines are great. We need meat on the bone as always. Councillors who've been here before, we get the headlines and we don't deliver the meat on the bone.
Councillor Holt, I need a question, please.
Will we ensure that we put the meat on the bone and actually come forward under the headline names and targets, some deliverable programmes?
Thank you. Councillor Saul.
Each of these pillars will have action plans against them, and you will note that at the back of the plan we say that we will be evaluated and assessed against those action plans. So we are very, very committed to actually having actionable plans against all of these, and we will bringing these to council.
Thank you. Are you answering the same question, Councillor Ward, please?
Just wanted to answer something with regard to the engagement and the engagement numbers. And I take the point that Councillor Holt is making. I would invite Joe Hobbs, can you provide some further context and detail about that engagement process? Because I know obviously you've been heavily involved with that. Maybe help to explain some of the concerns that Councillor Holt has.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, the numbers are as stated in the papers, and yes, in general kind of terms of some engagement that we have on some subjects at the council, they do look low. We did make sure as we were going through the engagement, we checked in to see what other councils have managed to achieve on this type of subject, on their corporate plans and where they're heading in terms of those high level picture plans. And we did benchmark well throughout process and towards the end of the numbers we did achieve. It is a difficult subject for people to engage with. When you're proposing something very real to people's lives, a development in the field next to their house, other matters that have been discussed in this chamber tonight, it elicits more of a reaction from people, and people feel more compelled to respond because it's slightly more real. Strategy documents are slightly harder to get a sense of, but as Councillor Saw did speak to, there will be delivery plans that identify what that means in terms of actions. We also made sure that we tried to get a broad spread of responses from people who we hear from often, and people that we hear from seldom heard voices, which was set out in the report as well, because it is so important to make sure that we have a representative view across our districts. But as I say, we did feel that we benchmarked well compared to other councils who had carried out similar engagement on similar plans, and so we feel that we have a good representation of the views of people who would be likely to give views on this plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions on our plan for Babergh? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Chair. Well, in this chamber, there's no such thing as a silly question. And I'm here to ask a question on all those people out there in the public that might be watching this meeting. On page 58 of this paper, we have Babergh district at a glance. And halfway down the page it says 26.1% of adults classed as physically inactive within our district. And my question is to council and to officers, what exactly are we going to do in a practical way to reduce that number? Thank you.
Thank you. Who's going to take that? Councillor Saul?
Yes, I take Councillor McLaren's point. This is a large proportion of adults classed as physically inactive. We are currently, and did in October, launch the Feel Good initiative, which has three key areas. One is weight management, one is getting people physically active, and one is helping people give up smoking. People can self-refer themselves to this service or be referred by their GP. It's early days, but we saw in October 200 plus people refer themselves. This is increasing over the months. We also run, as you know, a full range of services with our leisure centres, and we are continuing to run a series of programmes to get people more physically active. And I take the point, there is more that we can do, and it is one of our priority areas in the communities area.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Holt.
Yeah, getting back to what Councillor Saul said, we do need projects, deliverable projects on these items. The one item that I find missing, or found surprising that's missing, is from an economic point of view. There's nothing on there that really, to me, drives economic growth. There's a small part at the bottom where it says businesses also identify skills and business support as a priority, but it's not one of our headline drivers. And when you look at page 58, as Councillor McLaren just said, and the median house prices are 10.6 times the annual resident earnings, it just goes to show, and we've discussed this in this chamber before, how we need to try and bring that down. We are in a low earning district, and yet there's nothing in there to indicate to us that you are going to prioritise the economic growth aspect within Babergh. Housing is fantastic. We all know that housing affordability is something we all want to strive for, so we can get people in their own houses. But I do find, like, the transport, we're very limited on what we can do.
Councillor Holt, again, I need a question, please.
The question is, and it was there, why have we got no reference to economic growth in the headline numbers 1 to 5?
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
You'll see, Councillor Holt, on page 60, one of the three themes that I talked about is described in more detail, thriving economy. And there are a number of items there which we are committed to help to build our economy and particularly upskill and have better paid and better skilled jobs within. It's on page, if you look at page 60, I'm just explaining how it's...
Okay, don't interrupt while he's talking, please.
The three themes are provided in detail within the plan itself in Appendix A, and as I said, thriving economy, one of those, and there are quite a number of items listed under that go to address just the concerns you have, and the concerns we all have.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Hurren.
Chairman, yes, thank you. I'll see if I can raise the level of debate here. Councillor Ward, everything comes, or anybody, everything comes at a price, doesn't it? And there's some serious ambitions here. Is it intended that this project is self-financing through growth, prosperity? Where is the money coming from? And, you know, I would ask that, wouldn't I? Cycle routes, better health. it worries me that not only the council is not in a great financial position going forward, the nation itself is not great, high interest rates and everything else. The last few years, the quality of living is steadily going down, in my view.
Could I have a question, please?
The question's already been asked. Where's the money coming from, Chairman? I started off with that. I'm just trying to fill out why I'm asking. How are we going to achieve this? Where is the money coming from? That is the question. And can we fulfil this ambition? Be great, but can we do it? Can we afford it?
Thank you. Councillor Ward?
Well, Councillor Hurren, you're quite right. These are challenging financial times for all local authorities, and we are doing our level best to make sure that over the medium term, this council is put on a sound financial footing, which is why, and we'll have this debate when we come to discuss the budget next month. There are a number of measures that we'll be taking, not just for the budget this year, but also as soon as the budget's over, we will be looking at exactly what we can do in further detail to put it on a better financial footing so that we can afford the ambition here. There'll be different ways that this council will have to be run. There's no doubt about that, because what we've done in the past is not going to be appropriate going forward in terms of affordability. But also, a number of these things can be done in partnership with others and wouldn't necessarily require huge investment from the council. It's just a matter of designing the detail to meet these ambitions and ensure that we bring partners along with us. So that there will be ways to achieve it. It's not going to be easy, I'll admit that, but I can assure you that we won't be able to do any of it without having a sound financial basis going forward, and that is what we will definitely do with the budget that we will put to council next month, and then going forward beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Maybury?
Thank you, Chairman. Interesting response from Councillor Ward. You're talking about our partners. Could you tell us all which partners actually have some money to help us with all of this? Because I didn't think we had any partners that had lots of money at the moment. Thank you.
It will depend on individual action plans, delivery plans, and which partners we talk to and work with. At this stage, I don't have any of that detail, of course not.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on our plan for Babergh? Yeah. Yes. Any more questions? Good. Let's move to debate. Councillors will be able to speak once for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Councillor Holt.
I just want to agree with Councillor Hurren. I think he's nailed it, really. There is no money, and as members will know, projects that we have delivered have tended to be from grants, schemes, government schemes. So the idea is obviously to have the project oven ready, so that when those and if those government grants and schemes come available, we can apply for them, hopefully gain the grant. Which is again why I come back to what I said to Councillor Saw. If we can narrow the projects down so we ensure that we've got oven-ready things all typed up, presentable, ready to apply for those grants. Because without the grants, Councillor Hunt's quite right, we've got no money to do anything. So we need to be, as I say, focused on what programmes we want to deliver and bid for the money when it comes around to the bidding. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Register, then Councillor Saul.
I think oven-ready ideas are part of the problem we're dealing with. The reason we have there's no emphasis on economic growth is we want economies to thrive, not just have economic growth for the sake of it. And of course there is no money due to mismanagement from Westminster. Looking at budgets, it's really obvious that the majority of the problems come from both the Bank of England and from the government. These are ambitions. These are things that Babergh want to do. There are funding sources for some of them. For example, if we want cycle tracks, cycle paths, the government cut the money from £200 million to £50 million a year. which means that there is no money to go around over nearly 200 odd local authorities to achieve cycle paths. That's not going to happen anymore. And it's not going to happen because the government have made a stupid decision. The rest of these, each of these will be funded, if they can be, from various sources, some of which will be private, some of which will be from different funding sources, but certainly won't be from the government because they haven't a clue how to manage the economy.
Thank you. Councillor Saw.
Thank you, Chair. I take Councillor Holt's point, and I think we have been, the council has been successful in the past in getting grants. We will obviously continue to do that. But I think one of the key points, and Councillor Ward has referred to it, is that councils have to be smarter. We can and we have convened various partnerships to get things done. Because we are closer to our residents than perhaps any other public sector body, we deliver services on behalf of the National Health Service, on behalf of central government, but we are totally up for working with different voluntary groups, community groups, NGOs, the private sector, and this is what we are going to do. And we believe that this is the future. So yes, we will continue to look for grants. We will continue to put together partnerships to achieve these ambitions. And we are forward thinking. We're not stuck in the past, and we will take bold moves, which I'm sure Councillor Holt will be very supportive of.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other contributions, please? Councillor Derek Davis and then Councillor McCraw.
Yeah, thank you. I'm well aware of the dire situation that we're in terms of the cost of living crisis, and I think Councillor Register has pointed out to the reasons why we're in such a mess. But I want to look on the positive side. We have built up so much good work, us as councillors, as an administration, over a period of time. So we're not starting fresh. We're building on all the good work that's been done by our officers, and exactly as Councillor Saw said, by our partners in a variety of ways. We're not starting afresh. What I would also urge is that we encourage our parish councils, and mine's just as bad as everyone else's, to use their SIL money. They're getting it in. We're having to have housing. People moan about the housing, but there's money coming in with that. We need that to help with the infrastructure, to help grow, to help make sure that we can get projects off the ground. That in turn brings funding from other outside sources as well. So yes, it's difficult. We've got a really hard grind ahead of us, but you know, let's look on the bright side. Let's build on what we've already achieved.
Thank you. Councillor McCraw.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's always interesting to people say there's no money. That's an gross oversimplification. There is money, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here. That's why we do budgets. It's how you use the money you've got, where you use it. That's what we're talking about in terms of this, this particular plan. I'd just like to point out that the Chief Executive has made a very good point in the process of discussing our budget process. There are two ways of squaring this circle. One is to increase our income, and the other one is to reduce our costs. Those are the fundamentals of any budget. And the plan is always going to have to take account of the budget process. It's a constant ongoing thing, and it's subject to examination through scrutiny, in the Treasury management, through audit and standards. That's the process of a council's operation. And constantly dragging up a single item to raise a point, however irrelevant it is to the actual paper we're discussing, misses the point. The point is, what have we got? How are we going to use it? And let's do it step by step where it's relevant to the paper. So here, this is a question about a plan. This is what the administration proposes to do for the next 3 to 4 years. It's a guide. It will not be all things and everything. It's got more work to be done, and that's where the points that Deborah has already referred to will come in. Individual plans for individual jobs. So I think just bear in mind a little patience, please.
Thank you. Any other contributions, please? Councillor Rees.
This is in response really to Councillor McCraw. I find it difficult to see this actually as a plan. It still seems to be a set of aspirations and wishful thinking and some great ideas, but not really what I would describe a plan as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other contributions, please? No? Okay, so Councillor Ward, as you propose the paper, is there anything you'd like to say at the end?
No, I don't think there's anything else. Thank you, Chairman. I take on board all of the comments that Councillor Holt has made and quite valid. Councillor Rees, yes, it's not a detailed plan. No, it's a vision and a set of priorities. Plan as probably a word that's stretching a bit too much, but we will be looking at detailed delivery plans to underpin these aspirations. But as a guiding set of guiding principles, a strategy for the next 3 to 4 years, it's sound and detailed enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Okay, I'll now ask the Assistant Manager Governance to conduct the electronic vote on accepting our plan for Babergh.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. Councillor Maybury, may I take your vote, please?
I'm going to abstain because I'm not for it. But I can't find a good enough reason.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beer, may I take your vote? And Councillor Heron, may I take your vote, please? Oh, thank you. Thank you, sorry. Thank you, members. That is 23 votes for, 1 vote against, and 3 abstentions. So that's carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That is carried. Right, moving on to item 10, paper BC 2333, the Polling District Review. I'd like to invite the Electoral Registration Officer to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chairman. As you'll know, I wear multiple hats when I sit at this council chamber, and one of them is also the Electoral Registration Officer. You will also have seen reference within the report to the Acting Returning Officer, and that the Electoral Registration Officer has consulted the Acting Returning Officer. That's me looking in a mirror, because I'm obliged to do so. I won't, you'll be pleased, I'm sure, go through the lengthy appendices that you've got within this report that set out the various responses to the consultation and any changes, or rather any trial changes that we are proposing. We are obliged to carry out this exercise on a regular basis. We have done so efficiently and wishing to do so obviously ahead of the next elections. But if there are any individual queries from ward councillors in relation to particular polling places or polling stations, I'm happy to try and pick those up outside the meeting rather than necessarily distract everybody else with those now. I will ask, obviously, for a mover and a seconder, because I'm not able to do that.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a proposer for this report, please? Councillor Derek Davis, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Beer. Okay. We do have the opportunity for questions, although, as the Chief Executive said, individual ward matters might be better dealt with outside the meeting. Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're really unbending this question is to pay a compliment to the election staff, and I'd like the Chief Executive to pass on my thanks, and I'm sure a lot of members in this chamber will agree with me, that the election officer who was worked really very hard, I've forgotten his name, you know who I'm referring to, he really did it one-handed at some times, and the staff that were around him were very good, and I can only speak from the polling stations in my ward, but I always go round them at election times, whatever the election is, and they were all very good, and it was a credit to us because they weren't difficult with the public, they weren't difficult with prospective councillors at the time, and I would just like you to convey to them that it was very, very hard going at times, but they handled it very, very well.
Yes, if you phrase that as a question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Beer, and I'm more than happy to pass that on. You will also know Patrick, who's the officer you're referring to, has joined us on Teams. Again, very good reason why he's not here tonight. He's got COVID, and so as you will appreciate, you won't want him in the room. But he has heard that comment, so thank you, Councillor Beer, but I will pass on that thanks as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on the polling district review? Thank you. We can move to debate on this matter. Is there anybody who'd like to contribute to debate? Councillor Derek Davis.
Yeah, I just want to endorse what Councillor Beer has said. That's it.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much. Councillor Beer.
I will just make one comment on the paper, and it's regarding Great Cornard, and I'm pleased that you're wanting to stay the same, but in Great Cornard, we do have a large building, the Stevenson Centre, which would cater for all the elections that are held in Great Cornard. We have 3 polling stations at the moment, that includes that one, and it's very costly. It's a way we could save some money. I want to try and help you achieve some of your things that you've outlined today, and that's a small saving, but it's a start. But we don't need 3 polling stations now in Great Cornard, and I'll most likely get a bit of criticism over it, but people can get postal votes, and this is the answer if they feel they can't get to it. You can park in the Stevenson Centre, you've got plenty of rooms there, you're not disrupting the old school or the rugby club, and I'd just like you to bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other contributions? No. Okay, thank you very much. So, I'll now ask the Assistant Manager Governance to conduct the electronic vote on the polling districts review.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. Thank you. Councillor Mabry. Thank you. Thank you, members. That is 27 votes for. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. That is carried. Moving on to item 11, paper BC 2334, decisions taken by the Chief Executive under delegated powers in accordance with Part 2 of the Constitution. I'd like to invite, wearing a different hat, the Chief Executive to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, yes, one of my other responsibilities is, where necessary, to take urgent decisions outside of Cabinet and Council meetings. As you will appreciate from a democratic perspective, I'm very loath to do that unless absolutely required to do so. But when it does happen, I am obliged to then report it back to full Council at the next available opportunity, which is why you have this report here for noting this evening. The urgent decision on this particular case, as you will be aware, government set aside funding for those that were affected by the flooding from Storm Babergh, and what we needed to do was put in place a policy in order to make sure that that funding could flow out of the door as quickly as possible to those residents affected. and so it didn't seem appropriate to wait and bring it forward to a Cabinet or Council meeting at a later prescribed date, and obviously those residents detrimentally affected having to wait accordingly. So hence the reason for taking this as an urgent decision.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a proposer for this report, please? Thank you, Councillor Beer. Noted, yeah, to accept it as being noted. And a seconder, please. Councillor McCraw, thank you very much. Okay, we can have questions on this if you wish. Are there any questions, please? No questions. Thank you very much. We could have a debate. Councillor Maybury.
Yes, I'm going to say something. I think there's nothing worse for a household than to have a home flooded. I just cannot imagine it. And when one thinks about all the awful stuff that may have gone through a house, such as sewage. So I would just like to say that I fully approve of any funding that was given to help the households, and I would send my best wishes to all the households affected. Funnily enough, I met one. I'm going to tell you this tale, but I've got 3 minutes. She actually sold me a Christmas tree and told, I can tell you where. Can I tell you where? Yes, at Waitrose. And she actually told me that she was there selling Christmas trees and being very happy, and she was very pleased that everyone was enjoying Christmas, but her house had been flooded by Storm Babette, and she was in temporary accommodation. And I was just really moved by the way that she was not letting that get her down. So my best wishes, and I'm sure everybody else here agrees with me, we send our best wishes to those who were affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other contributions, please? Councillor Holt.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the Chief Exec. I emailed him back in November about the Suffolk Resilience Group and the idea of having a collective link where all the parishes and all the communities could access one link. Because one thing that came out during the time was that certain individuals, residents, were struggling to find information, whether it be flooding or other issues. And the idea of having the Suffolk Resilience Group have one link with all that information available so residents can just dial into it and get up-to-date information was something I thought that would be very useful. I don't know if the Chief Exec's got an update on that.
I don't at this stage personally, but I'm happy to take that away and double check. We did an initial, if you pardon the pun, wash-up following the flooding back, I think, in November in terms of any immediate actions we could take, and we will do a further review once we're through this winter season to make sure we learn all the lessons through this exercise, because depressingly, I suspect weather of this nature is here with us to stay.
Thank you. Any other contributions? Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, this might actually be a question. Is that permitted still?
Well, it depends how you phrase it.
I can imagine. Sorry, I haven't read this appendix in great detail, but this is a question really. Given that the district excuse me, is largely rural and a lot of our farmers have been severely affected by the flooding, to what extent do they receive any help? Because, you know, there have been potatoes rotting in fields, machinery getting stuck, all sorts of things going wrong for the farmers trying to get harvest in the last few months. I'm just wondering what provision there is for them, because I don't know. I probably would find it if I'd read it accurately. Thank you.
I don't, through you, Chairman, I don't think you would have found it through this. This is primarily in relation to the £500, which feels incredibly stingy. It's not our money, it's government's money, paid directly to households affected. Yeah, there are effectively 3 schemes, one for householders, one for future resilience, so again, measures that households can take, floodboards and such like, and then one to support businesses. But I'll take away the question because I'm not sure whether that has extended to the kind of impact that farmers would have experienced as opposed to if purely a building being impacted. And clearly, as you say, given the rural nature of our area and the financial impact for farmers, and you only have to drive around the district and see the amount of fields that are underwater still, and probably will stay underwater
Yeah.
for several months.
Thank you. May I come back to that? Thank you. That's why I asked, because it referred to businesses. Oh, sorry. That's why I asked, because it did refer to businesses. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other contributions to debate, please? Okay, thank you. So I'll now ask the Assistant Manager Governance to conduct the electronic vote on noting this report.
Thank you, members. That vote is now in progress for you. Thank you, Councillor Maybury. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Osborne, are you? May I take your vote verbally, please? 4. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That is 27 votes for. It's carried.
Thank you. That is carried. Item 12. Hold on, we're almost there. Councillor appointments. The appointments are listed on the agenda, but I do have one amendment, which is under the Suffolk Enhanced Bus Partnership, to delete Councillor Lee Jameson and insert Councillor Tim Register. Are there any further changes to appointments, please? Okay, can I please have a proposer for these appointments? Councillor Busby, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Hurren, thank you. And I'll ask the Assistant Manager Governance to conduct the vote on this item.
Thank you, members. That vote is now in progress for you to vote. Thank you, Councillor Maybury. Councillor Beer, may I take your vote? 4. Thank you, members. That is 20 votes for, 20 votes for, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. That is carried. Item 13, motions on notice.
There are no motions on notice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So that's our... Yes, Councillor Busby.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, I meant to bring it up at the right time, which is the Treasury Management Report. I was a bit concerned that 3 people voted against the Treasury Management Report, which seemed to indicate that they didn't understand it. Is it possible that we could arrange some training for those 3 people, please?
Thank you. I'm sure that will be welcomed by everybody. Councillor Holt.
Just like to congratulate you, Chair, on handling the meeting. I thought you'd done a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. The next meeting is on Tuesday, the 20th of February 24 at 5:30 p.m. I declare this meeting closed.